Yeah, the other day I was talking to a friend of mine and he was asking, I told him about smelling salts, and he said, what's that made out of? And I said, well, that's like ammonia crystals. He said, ammonia, NH4. And I said, NH4? It'd have to be NH3. He's like, yeah, how do you figure that? I'm like, well, a nitrogen can only have 3 hydrogen bonds on it. He said, how do you know that? And I was like, oh, it's just shit I remember from high school chemistry. And he's like, what? What else do you remember? It's like, well, I remember that methane is CH4 because a carbon can have 4 hydrogens, so it's not NH4, it's CH4. He said, why'd you remember that? And I'm like, well, in organic chemistry, it's all carbons, hydrogens, and oxygens mostly. And if, oh boy, and it's all carbons, hydrogens, and oxygens mostly. And so it's a very special case to have a carbon with 4 hydrogens on it, and that's methane. It's like one of the fart gases. He's like, that is really useless. And I said, I know I haven't used it too much either, but shit, I remember it. All right, I'm going to move on to something else now. Abbreviation. Not really a very short word, is it? No, not short at all. I wonder if it stole all those letters from abbreviated words. They're just left to wander the streets, half of their former selves, naked and afraid, wondering if someone will recognize them. But on the other hand, phonetic, not a very phonetic word, is it? Not phonetic at all. But whereas I think abbreviation stole its letters, phonetic is more of a smooth-talking bargainer. It's like, hey, I'll give you this F for a P and an H. This F I don't need. Before it sounds like a bad deal, you look like you could get rid of a few burdens in life, you know? And then sulfoxyphosphate suddenly, chemistry, is like, oh, I do feel better. He's 1 letter shorter, ready to live out in the sun and the daylight, and but then, he's like, well, I still have 2 pHs. I'll try this with Frank and Filbert. And Frank says, ugh, get away from me. I don't want to compromise my svelte and slender frame with your extra P and H, you fat fuck. So he thought he was going to live a happy life, but then he slinks back into his chemistry lab and starts to cry bitter tears into a beaker that curdles in resentment and begins to smolder with the aromas of vengeance. And he begins chloroforming unsuspecting words, and they'll wake up. Well, it's a bunch of serial killer shit, and then basically those words become abbreviations. Thank you all so much. My name is Derek Dimpfl. Give it up for your host, Sam Castillo.
It's Derek, everybody. On deck is Jared Starling. Put your hands together for Tyler Lars. Large? No, Large, there we go. Sorry. There you go.
Large, thank you.
Hey, Ryan, my bad.
Thank you. Dude, wouldn't it be so cool if